So Seguego, and welcome to another edition of KEC TV. I'm your host, Regan Jacobs, and joining me today is Robin Dallaron, the Director of Education for the Kahnawake Education Center. How are you, Robin?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
So over the Christmas holiday, the Kahnawake Education Center made a last-minute decision or announcement to change their original plans of having all students, excluding those who opted for online or remote learning, to return to school on January 5th. But due to the concerns of rising related COVID cases in the community, KEC had to reduce their number of students in each school during this crucial time. A portion of their students classified as vulnerable students were advised to remain home, while students of essential workers were permitted to attend class. You guys are still monitoring this situation, as I understand, and as well as all the needs in the families, during this week. So Robin, tell me, give us a few details of what led to this last-minute decision and, of having to reduce the number of students in each school.
Okay, well, thank you for giving me the time to be able to relay some more details to the community and to parents. Over the holidays, what occurred is that obviously I was still monitoring the situation like everyone else in the community. We had really anticipated and hoped that we would not see an increase in numbers of COVID cases. Mm-hmm. And because of that, we really knew that our schools had really taken so much precautionary measures to be able to open our doors. So that's the reason why we initially thought things were going to be going well to welcome the students back in. But through the holidays, as you know, the numbers began to increase. And in addition to that, with all the additional closures, I could generally sense the panic, the concern that was there. Again, this was something new for our community. Even though we've been through COVID since March, every month, almost every day is something new. And with that, all of that, taking that into consideration, I decided that it would be best for everyone just to have an additional week and possibly another week to, let everyone come back in with even more precautions and less numbers in the building than what we had. So that was the primary reason. The numbers increasing. Let's get readjusted to this. Let's reach out to community and ask community and the parents, if you can help us in this next phase, and if you feel comfortable, this is what we can do together. So that was the primary reason.
Okay, I mean, not a tough, decision at all, for sure. But once that decision was made, the vulnerable student population was asked to remain home, while essential workers, their children were allowed to attend school. Would you be able to just clarify the reasoning behind that?
Well, the first reason is that in our community, and as in the province of Quebec or in all of the world, we need our essential workers more so than ever before at this time. Mm-hmm. And those essential workers, just to give everyone maybe more of a perspective of what's happening and the type of responsibilities and the listing we have on our schools of these parents, is that they are required to either they are the hospital workers. We have in there parents who's work on the ambulance, who are working in the who are teachers. So who have to teach as well. So we have who are providing the groceries, being there to service you with our essentials in our community. And with that, it's so important that we have to keep the community functioning at that level, and we need these people to keep doing that. And if we didn't do that, you would start to see real interruption of services for you as community members when you need to take that ride to get to the hospital, medical transport, when you need different things and the services are not there. we really need to make sure community services, you have employees there who are taking calls, making their calls at home to community members who have anxiety, who have stress, and need to really dedicate their time while they're at home on the phone reaching out. And they can't do that while they're trying to, teach their child is interrupting. They need that place too to have their children. They obviously want to keep their children home. They're taking that risk too, but they know they need to be there for community. So the essential workers, yes, we needed to keep that place for them, for their children to come in so that we can support them in whatever way we can too.
Right. And I know that, in the case of the vulnerable student population, as you just mentioned, what are some of the ways that the KEC is addressing the needs of the students? And is it on a case-by-case basis?
Yeah, so right now, because it's really crucial for, first of all, people to understand what our vulnerable population entails. Mm-hmm. And I want to go through and maybe clarify that a bit. It's not that we're saying essential workers are more important. I just explained the reasoning, but the vulnerable population that we service is vast. So you may have students who we've experienced that online learning is not for them. They are regressing. There is parents calling, say, you know what, it's not working. It's, even though in some instances, they may have the ability, we're seeing that they're not attending, there's emotional issues. There could be students who have learning delays. We have students who are on the autism spectrum. We have students in there who also might be in terms of referrals from KSES, who say to us, we need to have these children in our schools, in your schools. There's students who have behavior technicians, could be just academic learning. This is not for them, and they need to have that on site, and academically they're just regressing. So this is our vulnerable population. Mm-hmm. And we really want to make sure it's important that their service. I am concerned right now that they're not in school. I am really concerned. But what we're doing right now for them is our schools, although we've asked them to stay home right now, but what our schools are doing, each of our school administrator is going through that list. They're going through the list right now and prioritizing. They're saying that, okay, who do we really, even though everyone is important in that vulnerable list, right now, maybe next week, who could we start if things continue, we see we're on a better numbers situation, who can we start servicing maybe to bring in periodically? Who could we service, in that capacity? Because we also have some who are going to currently, who have occupational therapy sessions. They have speech therapy. They meet with a counselor. They have our psychologists who have psych counseling with them in sessions, especially during this time. So we're finding ways that if it can't be done online, some of them, we might have to still bring them in. So we're concerned. So this is what we're doing right now, going through the list, making plans of how could we support them, whether it's, yes, sending the work, but making the calls too. How are you doing? And that's what we're doing for them right now. So we don't just want to leave them. We know it's important. Our administrators know they have to call, check in, and start making plans of how we can start supporting them, either partially or in some new program once again.
Yeah, and I think that's just another great example to recognize that the Kahnawake Education Center has been highly adaptive since the beginning of this pandemic. And developing different approaches and mediums to provide several avenues of learning and services to its student population. No doubt, that this has been challenging.
It has been it is the biggest challenge I've ever faced being in education here in terms of what we've had to do so quickly. I am so proud of everyone who had come together right at the beginning, who put our programming, our thoughts, our ideas together, and said, this is what we need to do. If you compare, just to have everyone compare again to the province, the province kept them in the big classrooms. You know, there was no real big restructuring and programs. Yes, they did offer distant learning, but it was only for a sector and eligible students with medical issues. But I am so proud of all the different programming that we've been able to offer. And it's challenging. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, it's the best. Everyone knows there's challenges, there's frustration, but there's success too. So in the beginning, I mean, looking at what happened, just knowing our community, knowing we're small, knowing the risk that could even happen more so for us than in outside of Kahnawake, we had to right away make a different program and meet the needs of parents. We started off right at the beginning, knowing parents did not want to send their children to school. They wanted to keep them home. So quickly we developed what was our home learning program, which was really for the elementary, saying, if you really feel that you want to keep your children home, that's best. We'll support that. We'll develop a program for you. And we did that. So right off, we already had almost like 50% of the population home, not in our doors, not walking into our schools. And we developed a program to support them. And I'm really proud because everyone went in there. Teachers went in and said, okay, I'll do this. What am I doing? How is it working? We got this together very quickly. And then with that, our teachers had to get used to, you know, working in a whole new way of here's the bubbles, here's what you're working with in your classroom. Here are the routines where you can't hug the children anymore, but you have to do this, you have to do that. So coming in with the anxiety and the fear, that was a whole new thing. So we had our students coming in with their parents' concern, students' concerns. And then we jumped midway, I think it was in November. Even with the numbers we had on site, we even had to pull out and have more children stay home and be a part of the remote programming. So all the way along, we've really accommodated and responded to what's happening, all the while really being at the forefront of making sure our schools are following real strict health and safety guidelines from local public health and Kahnawake Memorial Hospital input, the safety input. Everything has been done, and I really have to congratulate everyone, like I said before, for making sure our children are safe, but making sure there's still the risk.
Yeah.
We're not saying the risk is there. We know that.
Yeah. And, you know, and again, that speaks to the adaptability of the organization and such great examples. I'm sure it's no easy task, especially trying to develop programming specific to different learning styles. And, you know, so hats off to you guys. And, you know, I think some of the questions that are coming up from the community level is, we're 11 months into this pandemic, things keep on changing. And of course, you're going to have to adjust your sales. So in looking at how you're still, you know, dealing with the state of, you know, uncertainty within this pandemic, what are the immediate goals of and, you know, objectives of the organization?
Immediately, like I relayed originally, is we're looking, how do we meet the needs of the vulnerable population that we now have said, okay, this certain number, you now have to stay home. So that's the immediate needs that we're looking at, whether it's for this week, for next week. We're going to be determining how long this is going to continue, that they're going to keep home. My hope, and I will say, is that if our numbers are okay and things are okay and stay as is and get better, that we're going to slowly have to start looking at bringing them back in and monitoring numbers slowly and saying, okay, are we okay with this? Because I am, you know, really concerned. COVID is one thing, We're seeing the illness, we're seeing the medical impacts and the fear of the virus. But equally during this time for our children, we're seeing and worried about the social, emotional, the mental risks that are there, what this could do to our children. I've told them academics, I know they're important. I'm in education, this is academics. But right now, the social, emotional, the well-being of these children and their families is important, equally important right now, and we must be there to take care of that as much as we can. So that's our immediate concern right now, and Golds is working with that and seeing how we can do this. The other part that, looking and hearing from the schools and from the school administrators and from staff is the ongoing support for them. They're nervous. They know they're going in there. They know as educators they're taking a risk. They're just like the nurses, the doctors. They're going in there doing something for their community too. They're essential. They may not be taking care of COVID. They may not be, doing what the doctors are doing, but they are taking care of the well-being right now of these children, and trying to get the academics in as much as they can. So it's taking care of the educators, supporting staff, because we're on this roller coaster, just keeps going. And those are our goals right now, and looking at how do we wrap up this year. Even before Christmas, I was like, okay guys, telling my school administrators, I think we've gone through everything. I think if anything, we're not gonna open another program. And then look what occurred. We're still in this transition, still in this change. But they're adaptable. It's hard, but they're adapting. They adapt.
Yeah, and you can see that. And the other thing too to consider is that the KEC doesn't necessarily function in a bubble, right? Like we're still in Kahnawake, but we have all of these other circumstances or communities around us. So I was curious to know, in terms of like Quebec's decision making or action that they take towards their educational approach in the province, does that ever influence the Kahnawake Education Center's decision making or plans? And if so, how does that work?
It's a yes and no answer, okay? First of all, no in terms of the programs. You could see right at the onset when we opened our doors, our guidelines, our requirements were so different. I mean, just looking at Legault's recent announcement, just now saying grades 5 and 6, it's mandatory to wear masks. We had that input right at the onset that it's going to be mandatory to wear masks, So we've done things quite different. We delayed our time. We've looked at we really consult what medically, the medical field, the medical sector is saying. And in there, when we reopened, we looked at that. We looked at the component of our teachers where it said there's going to be anxiety, provide wellness programs. So we've done a lot of that. We've set only the 4-day week right now because of knowing that this new learning for teachers is so new. People are assuming that, okay, you're a teacher. No, learning how to do classroom control, getting them engaged in a new technology is so difficult. They're learning along with the kids. So we've taken that opportunity, to take care of our teachers in whatever way, the best way we can in this situation. We've done all these other initiatives. And how it impacts us, obviously, we have a good population of our educators who are not from Kahnawake, non-Kahnawake Rono. Their children go to the provincial schools. So I was concerned too with his recent announcement, thinking of, we have our teachers, what's happening if they have no place to send their children, if he totally shuts down? They're gonna have to support their children. They're gonna have to be teachers. So it really impacts how we and it could impact how we service, how we now have to go about and say, okay, you're going to have to rotate. We're going to have to be accommodating that this person can't come in that day because they have kids. So there's a lot of impacts in other ways that in other ways it doesn't.
I mean, it speaks to, again, we always talk about the adaptability, but it also speaks to like how I feel like the Kahnawake Education Center has definitely taken such a different approach to dealing with this pandemic as compared to other schools in Quebec, and it really does show. But we're going to wrap things up. Robin, thank you so much for coming on today and giving us the time to discuss some of these important issues. Is there anything else you think is important to add?
I have two more items just quickly.
Sure.
I just want to first of all say thank you to the parents who, when we returned, I know we had essential workers in each of our school, and we did a call out and said, you know what, if you can keep your child home, you're an essential worker in any way, to please do so during this phase. And we did see a reduction in numbers of the essentials. So whatever way they're figuring out right now how to do it, maybe because other businesses are closed and they have the family to take care of, they've been doing it. So thank you. And the other information is that with this new population that we've asked to stay home, a reminder to the parents that if you've been connecting with teachers through Google Classroom or other means for work or assignment, there's a whole new process that connect with the assignments and so on. So just a reminder that any work or anything is going to go through an email. And just a reminder that it's your child's first name dot last name at Kahnawake.education. And when you put that in and there'll be the password, you'll be able to access the work and supports that you need through there. But each of the school Facebook pages will put that out again too to support you. Because once again, it's a new learning process in terms of technology for some of these parents. Okay, and I just want to thank everyone once again behind the scenes doing everything. It's difficult, but thank you.
Yeah, great words to end on. And of course, we don't always see what's happening behind the scenes and how much hard work people are doing just to ensure that students and the parents and the family population are getting the services and educational services that they need, of course. So thank you so much for joining us today. A lot of great information. And of course, things are changing and can change rapidly. So over the next couple of weeks, you can look on some of our Facebook pages and join us here on our media to get continual updates. So now I'll go again, Robin, and to you who are joining us. Manigi wahi.